Hello everyone, welcome back to our SPSS tutorial series. In today's video, we are going to focus on one of the most important aspects of SPSS, the variable view. If you are working with data in SPSS, understanding this step is crucial for setting up and managing your variable effectively. So let's dive into it. So when you open SPSS, you will notice that there are two main tabs at the bottom of your screen, the data view tab and the variable view tab. These two view tabs actually communicate between each other. So while the data view tab is used to enter data or to see your actual data, the variable view tab is used to define your data or to define the characteristic of your data. So this is where you set up the structure of your data. Let's start by looking at the grid in the variable view. Each row in this grid represents a variable in your data set. So if you switch to the data view, you realize that at the level of the variable column, that variable is arranged in the row of your variable view. So each row in the grid represents a variable in your data set, and each column represents a different property or attribute of that variable. These properties include, you have here name, the type, the width, the decimal, the label, the value, missing, column, alignment, and measure. So the first column is the name. As you can see it here, this is where you give each variable a name. Okay, the name here should be concise, without spacing. I want to put a highlight on it. Without spaces, should ideally reflect what the variable represents. So for example, if you're recording ages, you might name the variable age. Keep in mind that variable names are case sensitive. Okay. So also, the variable name has some restriction at the level of the use of some symbols. So it doesn't accept hyphens, it doesn't accept ampersand. However, it accepts underscore. So if you want to write a variable name which has normally a space in between, to separate the words, it is advisable to use an underscore. However, what you have to keep in mind is keep your variable name short and concise. The text column, to talk about the type column. So next we have the type column. This is where you define your type of data for each variable. By clicking in a cell under this column, you will see a button that opens the variable type dialog box. Here you can choose from various types such as numeric, string, data, and more. Most of the time, we will be working with the string and numeric type. Close to the column type, we have the column width and decimals. The width here determines the maximum number of characters allowed in a variable, while the decimal here specifies the numbers of decimal places for numeric data. Okay, so if you have a data in your data cell at the level of the data view that have 4 characters, the width will be of 4 by default in SPSS. However, you have this possibility to increase or reduce the width based on your sensitivity or based on your data. Close to it, we have what we call the label column. Now let's talk about label. This is where you can give your variable a more descriptive name that can include spaces, special characters, symbols. For instance, if your variable name is age, the label could be participant age in years. So this makes your output more readable when you run analysis later on. Close to the column label, we have the value. Column label, we have the value. The value column is crucial for categorical variable. What a categorical variable? You have it quoted somewhere on the screen. We are going to talk much about it in the next session or the next training module when we talk about the fundamentals of data. So to have it just short, categorical variable are simply text variable that present themselves in the form of text, just to keep it short. So if your variable represents categories, like let's say gender, we have several categories of gender. So they're in text format with several categories. Gender, we have basically two categories, male and female. The value here allows you to assign specific value to these categories. For example, you might assign 1 for male and 2 for female. So this is very important, especially for analysis measure, to actually attribute a numeric data to your category data. We will understand it much more as the training goes. So you have this dialog box here, which allows you to define these labels. Okay, close to the value, we have the missing column. So the missing column here, you can specify how SPSS should handle your missing data for each variable. So you can define particular value as missing, ensuring that they are included in your analysis. For example, you might set 99.999 as a missing value for a variable where that code represents a non-response. Okay, so these are some data analysis knowledge you must also get. Column and alignment. The column allows you to control the width of your data view tab, while the alignment allows you to choose how your data should be aligned, to the left, to the right, to the center. I know sometimes people are very sensitive to the alignment of the data to quickly pick up some information. Sometimes it's a very useful tool as well. Close to the column, we have the measure. So the measure column is another key aspect. So here you define the level of measurement of each variable, either nominal, ordinal, or scale. Nominal is used for categorical data with no order, no inherent order. Like for example, gender, it doesn't have any particular order. Ordinal as well is a categorical data, but with a clear order. For example, let's say level of education. We have primary, secondary, and tertiary. So there is actually having a certain ordering arrangement. So if these terms are new to you, as I said, don't mind, in the next class you're going to have a course. On the next module, you're going to have lectures on data fundamentals, where you're going to understand the different types, categories of data. So lastly, we have the scale. So the scale is for continuous data, like height or width. So choosing the correct measure is crucial for the accuracy of your statistical test. I repeat it again. Choosing the correct measure is crucial for the accuracy of your statistical test. For example, if you have a data like a gender, you have to give to gender the most appropriate measure for a proper analysis. Okay, knowing that in the form of priority or with statistical analysis, the scales come before. After the scale, we have order. After order, you have nominal. So if you have data that belongs to the scale measure, you shouldn't give him the ordinal measure or nominal measure. He should have the highest priority of these skills. I hope it's a little bit clear. Lastly, we have the role. So finally here, this lets you to specify the role of each variable in your analysis. By default, it's input, meaning the variable is used as part of the analysis, but you can also set it as target, partition, none. However, it's not very, I won't say it's not very useful for us in this training session. So once you've set up all your variable in the variable view, your dataset is ready for data entry and analysis. Remember, properly defining your variable here will save you a lot of headache down the line, especially when you are running complex analysis. And that's your overview of the variable view in SPSS. In our next video, we will start with data entry into the data view tab and running some basic data management tasks. So thanks for watching again, and don't forget to keep yourself up and with this new knowledge. See you in our next class.